In Conversation with Terry Shepard, award-winning broadcaster, narrator, and author. A deep dive into the writer's craft with the artists and support systems who create the stories we love.
Have you ever felt that eating healthy meant giving up many of the foods you grew up with? Well, if so, you're not alone. For many Caribbean heritage people, the question lingers. Do I have to choose between the flavors of home and the health advice I keep hearing? Dr. Marissa Toussaint is here to tell us the answer is no. With her newly released book, Flambeau Kitchen, she bridges the seemingly impossible, honoring rich cultural foodways while building plates that support long-term wellness. As a physician and expert in culinary and obesity medicine, Dr. Toussaint has spent years helping people reclaim their heritage, not abandon it. In Flambeau Kitchen, you'll find more than 70 Caribbean-inspired recipes, tools for balanced eating, and guidance for navigating high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and other common health challenges. She argues that nutrition advice often misses the mark by focusing on restriction instead of relationships with food, history, and self. Dr. Marissa Toussaint, welcome to the conversation. It's great to be with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Have you always had a love affair with food?
I think so. It took a while to acknowledge and sort of reclaim that, but I am so happy to have found this niche because it really was sort of a circle moment for me in realizing how much of a foodie I am. And that I get to bring that to my work as a physician, talking to patients every day. Food is about connection, and it's something that I think is a great tool to bring connection with patients and now with readers.
You have such a wonderful heritage from Trinidad and Tobago in your youth to New York City in your present. Give us a little bit of your historic background.
I was born in Washington, D.C., to Caribbean parents who met in college and returned to their native TNT, Trinidad and Tobago, where I grew up. And then I moved back to the United States to finish high school. And I attended college and medical school in the United States. I've lived in many states, in Maryland and Pennsylvania, before ultimately landing in Brooklyn, New York. I did my residency in Manhattan and have been in Brooklyn for a number of years now, where I now have a family.
Why medicine?
I don't know. I decided at 9 years old. Possibly because of my experience with the healthcare system at that time. I was an asthmatic, and I had an experience where I once was in the hospital. It was a scary moment at that time, but I received really great care and ultimately decided at that point that that was what I wanted to do with my life.
The title of your book, Flambeau Kitchen, is striking. It's bright, evocative, full of life. What does flambeau mean to you, and how does it capture the spirit of the book?
That's an excellent question. So the word flambeau means torch or flame. And I wanted to use it as a metaphor for illuminating a pathway. There is some historical context to it as well, which I get into in the book. Trinidad was once unofficially occupied by the French, and that is the reason why we have so many French Creole names, including my last name. And it gave us carnival. And so flambeau, particularly the name flambeau, has some symbolic cultural relevance to our culture. And so it felt like the perfect word to talk about the conversation about food, about legacy, about health, and how culture just kind of brings it all together.
You write so well that food is about relationships with history, with community, and with self. Expand a little bit about what that means in practice.
When I am in the kitchen and I'm preparing stewed chicken, which is, one of our traditional dishes, and the aroma of the caramelized sugar and the oil and the sizzling sound when the chicken hits that pot, that cast iron pot, I am immediately transported to home. And I think of my childhood, and I remember waking up on Sundays and seeing my mom sort of frazzled from being up all night cooking for Sunday lunch. And Sunday lunch is special in the Caribbean. It's a time for family and connection and a spread unlike any other. And I started thinking, as I have been in practice for 2 decades now, every patient that I've met has a stewed chicken type memory. Everyone has that one dish that sort of does it for them, that brings that emotional connection and sort of ties their identity as well. And I thought that that is probably one of the missing elements for us as clinicians, as we lecture and we talk about, don't do this, don't eat that, this is bad for you. There's something wrong because we are missing that piece that validates the person. And to achieve cultural humility, we really need to have a broader conversation about the connection that food brings and how we don't shy away from it, but we honor it to start the conversation about achieving health for that person.
We're talking with Dr. Marissa Toussaint about Flambeau Kitchen, her brand new book. Flambeau, Flambeau, kitchen.com is the website. Food, it seems, just has a bad rap in general. We have so many paradigms about eating what is bad for us, but you portend that it can be good for you and still be enjoyable. How does that work?
The first thing that I do, I set up a framework. The framework is the overarching approach to healthy eating that I talk about. So, many of us are familiar with lots of diets that are out there. There's the Mediterranean diet, which is highly researched and has excellent outcomes. But for many people who are from other communities or cultures, they don't always understand or see how the foods that they know and love are reflected. And so I undertook the writing of this book to adapt the Mediterranean diet principles to Caribbean food eating. The first premise of this is starting with the framework, the 3 S's: select, savor, and scale. So select means that we are selecting more vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and healthy fats. Savor means that we are saving our most decadent, emotionally connected foods on occasion. And scale means that we reduce the portion sizes for the foods that may not be as healthy for us. And so throughout the book, I give real life examples of how to do this on a day-to-day basis.
You've worked in both clinical and community settings. What do you wish more healthcare providers understood about cultural eating patterns?
I think that my work has really illuminated that culture cannot be separated from health, that along with all of the other factors that we consider, the economic means of the patients, culture plays a big role. And sometimes in the messaging, in nutrition guidelines and in healthcare, things tend to be a bit restrictive, either intentionally or not. And patients can internalize that in ways that are not always recognized initially. And what I've noticed that many of the patients that I've encountered who are from other cultures, not just the Caribbean, that sometimes there can be stigma and shame about their own cultural foods, and that they understand that in order to be healthy, they have to banish or relinquish their cultural identity and foods.
Why do you think that nutrition advice fails to connect with cultural communities?
Well, I think it's exactly that. It's that we need to have more messages that include the foods that they understand. We need to understand when a patient gets told that they have hypertension or prediabetes, that just telling them to eat more fruits and vegetables may not be enough in terms of translatable advice, and that we need to do more to make that compelling and to make it instructional, and so that they're empowered to go and make the changes using the resources and the food and taste profiles that they cherish.
What's your favorite recipe in the book?
Oh, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I would say callaloo, both for its emotional significance. For me, it symbolizes and connects me to home, but also because it is rich and also healthful, right? It's rich with our dasheen leaves, which are also known as taro leaves, and it is a meal unto itself.
It is so hard for many of us to look at our relationship with food in a positive way, and we feel discouraged and overwhelmed about eating well. What is one simple, hopeful step someone can take right now to move in that direction of healthy eating?
Well, I think the first step would be to understand what you eat and what your favorite dish is. That's usually the starting point for me with many patients. And let's say it's a dish like stewed chicken. Then what are some ways that you can adapt it using the framework? Is it something that you want to celebrate as is in its traditional form, and you're okay with eating it on occasion? Or is it something that you want more frequently in your life? And then we should talk about the select and the scale, right? So can we add some vegetables to that yummy broth? Can we switch out the type of oil that we are using to one that's more healthful, or minimize it? Those are the types of things that I sort of talk about in the book.
The book is Flambeau Kitchen, and it's written by our special guest, Dr. Marissa Toussaint. FlambeauKitchen.com is the website. What do you recommend for people who spend a lot of their life on the road?
Well, that's a great question. It depends on the destination and what's accessible. So if you're going to a destination that has lots of variety, I often suggest trying to identify ahead of time restaurants or institutions where you can get maybe balancing a salad or some vegetables or soups, along with, the entree that you might be craving for dinner. If the frequency is such that it's going to be on a regular basis, there are other things you can do, such as bringing stuff with you in the suitcase. And I've done that. I've traveled with a bag of apples or granola or other snacks that I cherish that are shelf stable. Sometimes I give my patients a list of some popular items that you can get in the grocery store. Another one I love are those chickpea snacks because chickpeas are full of fiber, protein. It's amazing. And then it's delicious. So those are some examples of some tweaks that you can do to make travel less stressful for people who are concerned about eating.
What's in your lunchbox at the office?
So today I have a salad. I am very much my mother's child. So I tend to do a lot more grab and go and pre-ordering during the week. But I have adopted my mother's practice of cooking on weekends for the week. And typically I eat more of some of the cultural foods, including many of the ones that are in the book. The pumpkin, I do lots of cooking on the weekend. And then we try to balance it in between with salads or with fruits or lots of beans.
What do we hope that people will take away from their encounter with Flambeau Kitchen?
Depending on where you sit, your perspective. If you're from the Caribbean, I hope that this book will get used and read with an open mind of curiosity, and that people will come away with a sense of cultural pride, but also feel like they are empowered to make helpful decisions based on the information that's in the book, and that it's easy to understand. For people outside of the Caribbean community, I hope that people will understand that, Caribbean food can be helpful and it's not a monolith. It's diverse. It's rich. I hope you'll try it. And there's lots of delicious meals that are good for us in the region. And lastly, I hope for my clinical colleagues that this could be a resource for you to talk to patients about who may be struggling with this issue.
The book is Flambeau Kitchen, and it was written by our special guest, Dr. Marissa Toussaint. Marissa, thanks so much for the conversation.
Thank you.
In Conversation with Terry Shepard is a copyrighted presentation. All rights reserved. I'm Lisa Davis. Join Terry Shepard next time in Conversation.